to Andrew and Kevin from Bring Money for inviting us and me to this panel. Thank you also to the sponsors for putting on a great event. This is a very interesting topic and timely, I think. About 10 years ago, I had a meeting during Marine Money, New York, with a prominent European tanker owner. And I asked what measures they look at when it comes to carbon emissions. And the response was a little surprising back then, because the company told me that they measured the full cycle carbon emissions from construction to destruction. And the answer I had been expecting was, emissions from operations, which is what we had been looking at when we started the Poseidon Principles. But since then, the focus on carbon emissions, and more importantly, decarbonization, has been growing inexorably. Despite the much publicized delay in the IMO timetable, regulation is coming. And if not from a global body such as the IMO, it will come from regional bodies who don't want to wait for the world to catch up. And as we know, the availability of fuels that can reduce carbon emissions is not in abundance. Several plans for large-scale methanol or hydrogen plants have been shelved, causing owners to change orders despite bold and noble statements of ambition that they would build fleets to run on green fuels, such as biomethanol. But without certainty or clear direction, owners are ordering vessels that are either dual fuel ready or dual fuel capable. Clarkson's data shows that 42% of new orders delivered in the first half of this year were for vessels dual fuel capable, and that compares with 34% for last year and 10% in 2020. So the trend is clear. Several recent press announcements show that decarbonization is alive and well and likely to stay that way for the foreseeable future. And just last week, Repsol announced a multi-year agreement to supply Norwegian cruise lines with biomethanol. I think it was a 12-year agreement. CMB Tech has announced its orders for ammonia-fueled tankers and bulkers, so the world needs yards capable of building such vessels. Importantly, no decarbonization discussion would be complete without touching on nuclear fuel, as it's the only completely clean fuel. And SMRs, small modular reactors, are coming of age for use, empowering AI platforms, desalination plants, and hydrogen production. Those needs are helping spur the development of SMRs, and the challenge is being taken up both in the US and in Korea, with recent developments having been announced at HSI and HD Korea Yard for the development of SMR-powered vessels. So all of which leads to the topic of today's panel, which will discuss decarbonization and digitalization. So we have on our panel here, and I've only met one or two, so I don't know who they all are, but Hoki Lee, head of Green Energy, Center at Samsung Heavy Industries, Narae Rebecca Han, team leader product value innovation at Hanwha Ocean, Jungwoo Shio, Chief Strategy Officer Business Planning at Hyundai Avikus, Toshikazu Shiomi, Senior Vice President Corporate Strategy and Sustainability at Ocean Network Express, and Kane Chung, Director Sector Coverage, Transport and Logistics from ING Bank. So let me just start with a question which I think, Shiomi-san, you might want to answer. Decarbonization is among the major considerations in vessel ordering, and many owners look at the full life cycle carbon costs of building and operating a vessel. And approximately 20% of the total life cycle carbon costs are in the shipbuilding phase and 80% in the operating phase over the full cycle. So we know from public announcement that Korean government is significantly ramping up funding to support decarbonization in ship construction. One report says that the South Korean government has announced a $1.8 billion package to dominate next-gen shipbuilding, with large proportions directed at green ship technologies, ammonia-fueled ships, electric wind-assisted propulsion, and digital transformation. So does this support translate into meaningful incentive for owners to consider as the premier choice when ordering?
Yeah, thank you for asking, Chris. And before that, thank you for inviting me to this good event. The Korea is a very nice place for the shipping industry because we have a very strong shipyards. Samsung Heavy, HHI are the very big guy as well, and also small size, very good shipyards around in Busan. So it's very strong, and also financier. The Korean ECA and also the Korean banks are strong, and the Korean owner as well. So it's a kind of trinity you have here. So we really appreciate this place as an operator. So before answering the Chris question, to understand the, how can I say, logic, let me explain how money come into the shipping industry. So like I mentioned, the shipyard, financier, and ship owners are the key part of the players. But on top, the operator, like ourselves, is the starting point of the cash flow. We are the one to carry the cargo and make money and buy the vessel and pay all the fuel and also financial interest. So, which means if the industry needs to take action, you need to support the operator to make more money so that money flow come into your side. That's a very basic point. So everyone is quite in the silo. So for example, AI support and digital transformation, which is very nice. But what kind of thing you need to achieve by investing the money is very important. If you just focus on how the shipyard can be efficient and the vessel cost can be lower, which may not be enough. For example, in a container shipping world, we often use a 10,000 TEU vessel, for example. Roughly mentioned, the 10,000 TEU vessel can carry 10,000 containers. But however, for good example, the Korean shipyard design is very nice. If we built a container vessel in Korea of the 10,000 TEU, actually the capacity, real capacity, is bigger than if we create the vessel in China. So which means we can increase the revenue throughout the cycle. That will be a very good justification to pay more for us. Because anyway, we can make more good cash flow. And fuel efficiency, why we need fuel efficiency is fuel is one of the biggest costs. And many people don't know that actually the vessel price itself is just a part of the life cycle operational cost. So if the shipyard can provide us a better efficiency, fuel efficiency vessel, that will definitely help us. So my aspiration of this initiative, firstly, initiative is very welcome from my point of view. But how we utilize, how we mean the shipyards and related industry utilize this money to achieve the real purpose is to support operator is a key for us. So I hope the related party could understand that how we operate the vessel, how you can help the operator to make more money so that we can pay more to the Korean ship. That's the answer to the Chris. Thank you.
Thank you, Shiomi-san. And I wonder whether Jungwoo would maybe got a response for that as well.
Sure, that's very interesting topic and the opinion. So my name is Jungwoo. I'm CSO of Avikus. We are HD Hyundai company. We are focusing on autonomous navigation technology. So basically, many of today's topics are focused on clean energy hardware, whereas our focus is on software. So at Avikus, our role is to put operators' plan into action. Put it another way, what we do is we create the optimized voyage plan, and our solution create the optimized route and execute it so that the operator can reap the benefit of fuel saving and enhanced safety. So I think the smart solution isn't just a separate topic, rather it is the enabler for those clean energy hardwares to achieve the fuel saving and the safety. And we are the only solution already commercialized and validated by multiple ship owners, class societies, and flag states. And we are the only one up to date can provide the verifiable proof for saved energy.
Thank you. Let's move on to another question. Korean shipbuilders, particularly HHI, DSME, and SHI, have developed strong global reputation for building technologically sophisticated, high-value vessels such as LNG, LPG, offshore supply vessels, FPSOs, and ultra-large container ships. They combine advanced engineering capabilities, efficient large-scale production facilities, strong project management for complex customized build, and proven track records for top global ship owners. But are there operational considerations that might prompt owners to look elsewhere? And I guess I'd start with you, Shiomi-san, to respond to that.
Okay. Like I explained, for us, the main discussion point is not just a price. So how we can minimize the cost and how this vessel can support us to make more money. So in that sense, Korea is very well known as a good balance between quality and price. But we really need to be cautious about that. I'm from Japan, and Japan was the biggest shipbuilding country in the past. And Korea was the first. Now China is the first. So in the past, Chinese yard is well known as just a cheap price. And that's about that in the past. But nowadays, we cannot underestimate their speed. So like the other panelists mentioned, we really need the technology to tackle the how can I say, challenges. Then nowadays, they are very, very fast one to adapt new technologies. And we never cannot underestimate their effort. And Japan, Korea, China has a different competency. And one of the competency Korea has is not only the shipyards, like I mentioned. It is very well supported by the financier. That can be also the very good support. So in total combination, we consider the package. When we order the vessel, usually we think about the financing. If we order the vessel in Korea, we can expect the Korean ECA and the Korean bank can support us with a very good condition. That also can be the consideration. That's a part of our operation. And maybe the last challenge we have for the next decades are how we deploy the alternative fuel. This part is very, very uncertain at this moment. And also, especially the fuel production itself, also its issue. But even though we have the alternative fuel, how we bunker this fuel to the vessel is still is not very well established. It's a kind of social problem rather than the shipping company's problem or shipyard industry's problem. So maybe one of our, how can I say, joint effort should be the education to the outside of the shipping industry, because in the end, the beneficiary is us, as a citizen, not a financier or not a shipping company. As a citizen, because without a container shipping, you cannot buy the clothes, you cannot buy the shoes. That's really, I hope, to achieve next 5 to 10 years together with all the participants here. Thank you.
Thank you, Shiomi-san. I wonder, Narae, Rebecca, do you have a view on that question?
Of course, in the past, the cost of the China's shipyard is very low than Korea's. Of course, the vessel price and financing condition are always important. But if we focus on operational factors you mentioned, there are a few points to mention. Some owners look to China or Japan mainly for delivery flexibility. Korean shipyard, including Hanwha Ocean, are very busy with full order books, so it can sometimes be difficult to align with the customer's preferred schedule. Slot availability and short-term project timing do influence decision-making. However, from Hanwha Ocean's perspective, long-term value matters far more, especially fuel efficiency, reliability, and regulatory readiness. As carbon regulation tightens and the fuel transition accelerates, many ship owners now prioritize life cycle performance over low CapEx or delivery convenience. This is where Korea Shipyard and particularly Hanwha Ocean stand out. We combine next generation fuel technology, proven engineering, and strong life cycle support through Hanwha Power System, a complete and reliable solution for the future. There are the reasons our customers continue to trust Korean shipbuilders and why a Korean-built vessel remains a future-proof investment in the years ahead. Yeah.
Thank you very much. Let's move on to another question. HD Hyundai has announced partnerships with global tech firms Palantir Technologies, Siemens AG, NVIDIA Corporation to implement digital twin, AI, data analytics, and automation in their shipyards. SHI is going paperless in drawings, and they plan to adopt 3D digital drawings, digital twin technologies for design construction processes, moving towards a smart integrated management infrastructure. Robots and automation adoption at Hanwha Ocean using collaborative welding robots in yards, aiming to build smart yards by 2030. And does this put Korean shipyards in a leading position compared to its competitors? And I guess, Narae, Rebecca, I would turn to you again for a shot at that one.
At Hanwha Ocean, we are already applying a range of automation welding robots that can cooperate with human to real production lines. Korea shipyards are very proactive in adopting AI and automation, as you are well aware. Wait a moment, sorry. We are taking a phased approach toward achieving automation and cognition decision and mobility flexibility, actively advancing development as a part of our long-term goal to brief truly intelligent and autonomous smart yard. We are also investing heavily in digital transformation and data integration, which are improving both design productivity and construction efficiency. And of course, AI-based applications are becoming an increasingly important part of that strategy. We recognize that Chinese shipyards are also accelerating digitalization at the national level. However, the success of automation and digital transformation ultimately depends on engineering and production design capability. And that is where Korean yards maintain a clear advantage. So while all major shipbuilding nations are progressing, we expect that each will evolve along its own path, with Korean continuing to lead in the integration of AI, automation, and digital shipyard innovation.
Thank you. And Jungwoo, I don't know if you've got a comment you want to make on this question.
So our company is not on shipbuilding, so rather, I would want to stress out one more time about the OPEX side, because that could be another side of the whole life cycle of it. So basically, what we are trying to do is imitating what best captain would do, following the operator's guideline and business case. So what we do is we help the bridge team to improve their efficiency and safety, just like what ADAS system on your vehicle would do on the highway or even congested traffic.
So let's move on. Tariff wars are very much in the news, and this has caused companies to rethink where they're domiciled or what board representation should look like. With a significant part of the vessel financing being provided by Chinese lessors, what impact is expected to result from USTR? And I guess this is one for you, Kane.
Yeah, thanks, Chris. I'm very pleased to be here, and hopefully I can give you some different perspective from a financier's point of view. Yes, in response to your answers, the immediate reactions from USTR was at confusion, mainly because of the uncertainty or unclear definition of the Chinese ownership, especially when it comes to the Chinese leasing financing. So due to this unclear definition of the Chinese ownership or Chinese controlled, it created the regulatory risk raised on. But currently, the consensus so far is that the vessel that is financed through the Chinese leasing structure deemed to be a Chinese controlled entity, which triggered US port fees under the USTR. So for the past few months, especially from out of Singapore and Europe, I've seen many prepayment and refinancing of those Chinese leasing loans. So this trend, I think, has moved on to Asia, including Korea, I think. But the interesting points that I wanted to mention here, or unique situation here in Korea that I've seen so far, is that one of the key reasons that Korean owners used Chinese leasing is a high LTV. But if the Korean owners wanted to refi the existing Chinese leasing loan with a high LTV structure, they need to put more equity for the refinancing, which is not easy for everyone, except for the few companies who have a rich cash in their balance sheet. That makes it difficult for them to refinance it or make a decision. So, but then, yeah, but in the future, in the very short time period, they need to make a decision. So yeah, it remains to be seen how it evolves. And yeah, I forgot what I want to say. But sorry. Yes. Oh, yeah. Because of the trend, so I think that there will be a more prepayments and refinancing going forward. But as just mentioned, it is not easy to get the refinancing from a traditional banks unless they are willing to put more equity. So they need to diversify the funding sources, not only from a traditional banking side, but also from alternative funding side. I think this was covered by the previous sessions. So yeah, I expect that the company, there will be of course, it can be an opportunity for traditional banks if they see that there's an opportunity, but at the same time, definitely this is challenging for the owners.
Okay, thank you. Digitalization in Korean yards, for example, at HHI, SHI, and Hanwha is reshaping the carbon footprint of vessel construction. Since the embodied emissions from building a ship are part of the ship owner's Scope 3 Category 1 purchase goods and services measurements, can improvements in shipyard efficiently directly lower the ship owner's reported Scope 3 emission And is this likely to have a positive impact on vessel financing costs? So I would ask you, Kane, just to take a shot at that one as well, if you could.
Yes, I think the short answer is yes. If you look at, let me take an example of these typical sustainable financing loans or structure, which is sustainable linked loan facilities. So if I briefly explain about the sustainable linked loan, is that you need to include one of the ESG KPI so that is linked to your margin reduction or premium. If you fulfill the agreed KPI or ESG KPI, you'll get the benefit of the margin reduction. That's a typical sustainable linked loan structures. And one of the typical KPIs for those sustainable financing loan is the carbon emissions, which is measured by annual efficiency ratio. But if the owners or the vessel or financiers is able to include the scope 3 emission reduction as one of the KPIs, definitely it could be the benefit for the owners if they can fulfill the KPIs or KPIs in the loan agreement. So that would be a benefit. Of course, the main purpose of the ESG loans or sustainable linked loan is not to get the commercial benefit. But yeah, if they can achieve both commercial and ESG angle at the same time by ordering the vessels in Korean yard with a reduction in scope 3 emissions, that's a mutual benefit. So I think my simple answer is yes, and there will be a definitely positive result is expected. And lastly, in terms of the asset valuations, of course, currently, if you compare the asset value especially in a second-hand market between so-called green asset and a traditional asset, there's not meaningful differences in terms of the asset value, whether this ESG or green vessel has more value than the traditional vessels. But if the trend has moved on to these scope 3 emission reductions, definitely owners or charterers or as financiers prefer those vessels that are built in the Korean yard. Then definitely there will be a high chance that asset value of those ships will increase. That will be also a benefit to the financiers and owners as well. So I think if you take into account these two main points, I think the answer would be definitely yes.
Thank you. Question, Hoki Fili, we come to you for this one. Deliveries of alternative fuel-capable ships into the fleet are now accelerating, following stronger uptake on new builds in recent years. And I mentioned earlier that in this year, 42% of new builds compared to 34% last year and 10% 5 years ago. That's how many are dual fuel capable. These deliveries have been gradually increasing the share of the fleet, and with more than 50% of the order book now alternative fuel capable. Do we think that there will be enough alternative fuel to utilize the lower carbon propulsion of these vessels?
Thank you for asking me this question. Since I'm the head of Green Energy Technology Center, I think I'm the right person to answer. Currently, low carbon and carbon-free alternative fuels related technologies are being developed, and some of them have been commercialized. If you look at the reality of the supply chain of each fuels as of 2030, I think LNG is expected to be most widely used alternative fuels by 2030. Because of its mature technology and operation experience, and LNG bunkering infrastructure has been established in large number of ports. However, the CO2 reduction effect is limited, and there is a disadvantage. The methane slip problems needs to be solved. In other case, if you look at the ammonia, it is carbon-free fuel that can reduce carbon emissions by more than 90%, but it is necessary to commercialize technology and solve problems such as global supply chains, and port infrastructures, and safety issues due to its toxicity. However, I think commercialization is possible, but it will be but it will to be difficult to occupy a large portion of the fleet by 2030. Methanol has already been commercialized due to its relatively low technical difficulties, but it is expected to be used in certain routes or small fleets due to global supply and economic problems of the green methanol. In case of the hydrogen, all infrastructure such as storage, transportation, fuel supply, and utilization is still insufficient. So the commercialization is not highly realistic of the 2030, and it is necessary to proceed with the technology development from a long-term perspectives. If I summarize all this, it will be depends on marine environment and regulations, infrastructure constructions, and technology development. But as of 2030, I think LNG is expected to be account for the majority of the ships eco-friendly alternative fuels. And methanol and ammonia are expected to be used limited manners. Thank you.
Thank you. In the interest of time, I'm going to combine the last two questions if I can. In the search for reduced carbon-emitting propulsion, designs have included ammonia, methanol, LNG, LPG, and hybrid variations, but all have drawbacks, as you've just heard. Nuclear has zero carbon emissions, and some yards are embracing this technology. Is this research into nuclear power in vessels likely to gather pace in Korean yards? And the second part of the question is there a growing lobby to support this type of fuel in shipping, and over what time is it expected to be commercially viable? And that's really a question directed at owners as well. So, Hoki, why don't you kick us off with the first part of that question?
You mean the commercialization
Yes.
of nuclear power ships in
yards?
In yards?
Yeah.
Oh, okay. Like I just previously answered, all the different alternate fuels have their own drawbacks.
Yeah.
We are also looking at the nuclear powers as carbon zero fuels. So we had researching it, and actually we developed we got the certification for the commercialized containers and LNG carriers from the ABS. However, we just make the shield for the nuclear radiations and where we can put the nuclear power source. But first, the SMR and the small modular reactor and the molten salt reactor have to be developed first. And I expect that will be on the market on earliest is the 2035. Starting from there, we can make the ships, but first of all, the regulation have to be solved, and then moving the ships to continental have to be solved. So if that problem is solved first, probably we can starting to make ships by 2035, but the ship will be possibly 2038, 2040.
Thank you. Narae, I wonder if you've got a comment to make on that.
Following the agreement reached last night between the US and South Korea, it now appears that Korea will be permitted to build nuclear-powered submarines using highly enriched uranium fuel. While this technology will remain restricted to special purpose naval vessels, it will likely foster a more favorable public perception of nuclear energy within Korean society. In that sense, I believe discussions around nuclear propulsion for commercial vessels will gradually gain legitimacy and momentum in the years ahead. Korean shipbuilding industry, we are closely monitoring development in nuclear propulsion, particularly, he said, around small modular reactors. This is active research interest, but regulatory complexity and public acceptance remain major challenges. Before commercialization can happen, we will need clear international safety and liability frameworks guided by IMO and IAEA. Most of our customers, global ship owners and charters, always focuses on safety. In this regard, they're cautious about nuclear propulsion from a safety perspective. So far, at least, the next 5 to 10 years, we expect to focus on regulatory development and pilot projects with classification societies. Korea's strong foundation in nuclear engineering and safety systems gives us meaningful potential for future research and collaboration.
Thank you very much. And can we just one final word? I think we've got 1 minute left. Shiomi-san, if you could give us the owner's view on nuclear as a form of propulsion for commercial tonnage.
So already Narae-san covered almost everything. Maybe one thing I can add is vessel is run by seafarers. So I'm leading our ship management company in ONE. And I work with a lot of captains and chief engineer. And I ask them, are you ready to be on board nuclear-powered vessel? Their answer is, okay, if we work in Navy, we cannot say no. However, we work for the commercial shipping company. So you really need to think about what you are asking for us. So that part is, I believe it's quite important part of it. In the end, it is impossible to run the vessel without a seafarer. So we really need to prove that. Of course, there is no 100% safety. But however, is it true the small modular reactor is safe as we have heard? We really don't know. And also, like also Narae mentioned, if something happens on the territory of the Korean Sea or Japanese Sea, who pays the recovery cost or whatever? The amount can be much bigger than any kind of accident. So these parts need to be, cleared very carefully, because anything can happen in the sea, like we see the collision to the bridge in the United States. No one really think about that, but that's a reality of the shipping world. So therefore, in the end, so at this moment, I don't think that is happening very soon. And when I engage the decarbonization research in the previous position, I prefer to use the nuclear power to produce the green fuel. That is much more easier and makes sense for everyone. That's how I think. Thank you.
Thank you very much. I think we've run out of time, but you've been very, very generous with your comments. Thank you very much to the entire panel.